I didn't find texts. I didn't catch her in a lie. She simply told me I wasn't invited, and that was the moment everything ended. The morning felt harmless, soft light through the blinds, coffee breathing steam into the quiet, one of those rare Saturdays where nothing demands your attention. I remember thinking how rare peace had become and how much I wanted to protect it. She was dressed for intention, not comfort. That's what caught my eye, not jeans, not an old hoodie of mine, a fitted black dress. Hair done, makeup precise, restrained, expensive looking, the kind of effort people make when they want to be remembered. I said something polite, something neutral. She said she was meeting someone for coffee. The way she said it mattered, casual but rehearsed, like she'd already practiced it in her head and decided which version of herself she'd bring home later. I asked who. She said her ex was in town. The name landed heavy, a man I'd heard about in fragments, stories that always ended with, "that was a mistake," or "I was young." The kind of man who existed safely in the past until he didn't. I waited. This was the moment where you reassure your partner, where you say, "just for an hour," or "I wanted you to know." This was where trust was supposed to show up. Instead, she looked straight at me and said she was going alone. Then calmly, without heat or hesitation, she added the sentence that changed everything. "You're not invited." There are betrayals that explode, screaming, tears, accusations. This one was surgical. The room went quiet in a way that felt unnatural, like the air itself had stepped back. I realized it wasn't about the coffee, it wasn't even about the ex. It was about exclusion, about choosing a life moment, however small, and deciding I didn't belong in it. In that silence, something inside me settled instead of breaking. I felt the folded receipt in my pocket, the one I'd checked 3 times already that morning, the ring I'd ordered, the money I'd saved quietly for months, the future I'd been preparing without asking for applause. And suddenly, with terrifying clarity, I saw the rest of the movie. The arguments framed as insecurity. The way I'd be told I was controlling if I objected. The slow erosion of self-respect disguised as compromise. The version of myself who would stay quiet just to stay chosen. The thought didn't scare me. It offended me. So I didn't argue. I didn't ask questions. I didn't explain myself. I said one word. Understood. She blinked like she'd expected resistance, maybe even enjoyed the idea of it. Then she left, keys in hand, perfume trailing behind her like a closed door. The apartment felt different immediately, not empty, finished. I didn't sit down, I didn't spiral, I moved. First call was to the jeweler. My voice was steady, professional, the kind of tone people use when canceling something that no longer fits their plans. I ended the engagement before she finished her drink. Then I packed. Not like a man running, like a man extracting himself from a situation that no longer deserved him. I took only what was mine: clothes, laptop, books, the quiet things that made me who I was before I tried to become us. Each drawer emptied felt lighter. Each box closed felt final. By the time the sun shifted on the floor, I was gone. I didn't leave a note. Closure isn't something you owe someone who excludes you. That night I stayed somewhere anonymous, neutral walls, clean sheets, silence that felt earned. I slept better than I had in months. The messages started 2 days later. Confusion first, then minimizing, then apologies wrapped in self-pity, then anger when none of it worked. I didn't respond. The most interesting part wasn't what she said, it was the order. Every attempt followed the same emotional staircase, like she was reading from a manual she didn't realize I'd already memorized. When someone shows you who they are by removing you from their world, the only winning move is to stay gone. Weeks passed, life expanded, quietly. I found a new place, a better routine. Friends noticed the difference before I did. Then one night, I saw her again. A bar we'd never shared. I was laughing, genuinely laughing, when she froze across the room. She looked thinner, smaller, like someone who had lost gravity. She approached carefully, said my name like it still belonged to her. She apologized, explained, rewrote history in real time. I listened, not because I was tempted, but because indifference has a sound and I wanted her to hear it. When she finished, I told her the truth. That moment she said, I wasn't invited, was the moment she made the decision. I just respected it. I wished her well, I meant it, then I turned back to my life. She stood there longer than necessary, watching someone she no longer had access to. And that was the end. Not dramatic, not loud, just complete. Some doors don't slam. They close and stay closed because you finally understand you deserve to be inside the room you're building. What surprised me wasn't how quickly she disappeared from my daily life. It was how slowly I came back to myself. For the first few weeks, everything felt unusually quiet, not lonely, precise, like my life had been edited down to only the necessary scenes, no tension humming under conversations, no careful wording, no low-grade anxiety disguised as love. I started noticing things I'd been ignoring for a long time. How often I'd apologized just to keep the peace. How many times I'd swallowed discomfort and called it maturity. How easily I'd mistaken consistency for commitment. The silence taught me something brutal and useful. If losing someone brings relief before it brings pain, the relationship was already over. You just hadn't caught up yet. Her messages eventually stopped, not because she understood, but because attention moved elsewhere. It always does. People like her don't process loss, they replace it. I heard through mutual friends that she'd been telling a different version of the story, one where I was emotionally unavailable, one where she was blindsided, one where the coffee was nothing and my exit was extreme. I didn't correct it. People who need villains will create them. People who know you will recognize the quiet truth. Months passed. My life didn't become perfect, it became honest. I cooked meals without negotiation, chose weekends without compromise, took long walks without explaining where I was going or when I'd be back. The absence of justification felt like oxygen. One night alone in my new apartment, I found the box with the last things I hadn't unpacked. Old photos, a few cards, artifacts from a future that never happened. I didn't feel anger, I didn't feel nostalgia. I felt distance. That's when I knew it was over for real. Not when she left for coffee. Not when I packed. But when her memory stopped asking anything from me. I threw the box away. Later that year, I ran into her one last time, not dramatically, not intentionally, a grocery store aisle, the kind of place where people pretend to compare labels just to avoid eye contact. She looked at me like someone spotting a house they used to live in, familiar but unreachable. She smiled, I nodded. No conversation followed, none was needed. I walked out into the parking lot with my hands full and my mind empty, the good kind of empty, the kind that means space has finally been made for something better. I don't tell this story because I'm proud of leaving. I tell it because too many people think betrayal requires proof. Sometimes it only requires clarity. When someone tells you that you're not invited into their life, believe them. And have the courage to RSVP accordingly. Because the most powerful thing you can say, sometimes without raising your voice, is understood.